All right, so I'd like to do a little lesson here on some statistics with arrays, if we have numerical arrays or arrays that store numerical data, and looking at finding the maximum, minimum, and the average of that data. So there is a built-in math.max and math.min, but it doesn't quite work for arrays. So there's something called the spread operator that's going to help us. And then there is no built-in thing to find the average, so we'll just go over the algorithm for that. And it basically involves traversing to add all the elements together and the divide by how many there are. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that, and I'm just going to go in a console here and just play around in the console. So let's start by just making an array called nums and put a bunch of numbers in there. 1, 10, 499, 23, 600, 450, I don't know, 88, whatever. Okay, so that's my variable nums. Yay! So math.max is a built-in function, and I can pass in values. So there's the example 2 and 3, and it gives me 3. Math.max, type in a bunch of other numbers, and it gives me the maximum number. Great. But what happens if I go math.max of nums? It says NaN, not a number. And basically the way that math.max works is it's expecting a list of arguments, right? This, comma this, comma this. Whereas these arguments should be numbers here. But here we're giving it an array. So JavaScript has something called the spread operator, and basically it's kind of like this, the dot, 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 and we use dot, dot, dot. Okay, and the way I think of this is what the spread operator is doing is it's converting nums from an array into a list of arguments, right? The dot, dot, dot. It spreads it out so that instead of it being one variable that's this collection of numbers, it's spreading out those numbers so that they're each a unique argument, right? And if you can see, if I do this, I now get 600, which is the maximum value. Okay, and then math.min works the same way, dot, 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 nums, and it'll give you the minimum value in that array. Okay, so fairly straightforward, I think. Just this spread operator is required in order for math.max and min to work with an array of numbers, as opposed to just giving the numbers as separate arguments. Okay, and then to find the average of something, really, what is average? Average is you add all the elements together, right? Add all the numbers together and divide by how many there are. Well, how many there are is easy. Nums.length, right? We know there's going to be 7 numbers because that's the length of the array. Now, to find the sum, that's a little bit harder. I wish there was a math.sum function, but that doesn't exist. Math.total? No, that doesn't exist. So we got to do the work ourselves. And the main idea here is we're just going to create a variable to store our total, or sum we could call it, whatever. Let total. And we initialize it to 0 because I haven't added anything to the total yet. Then I need to traverse this array, right? I want to take 1 and add it to my total. I want to take 10 and add it to my total. 499 and add it to my total, etc., all the way to the end. And then once the loop is done, all of these numbers should have been added to my total. I can then divide it by the length to get the average. So we're going to do our loop, right? How do I loop through all the elements? We start with our variable I, short for index. I is 0, I is less than nums.length, and I plus plus. You should be very familiar with this loop, right? Start at 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So I want to be less than the length. Once it equals 7, then I stop the loop. And we'll just go total plus equals, or total is assigned total plus nums, nums I, like that. Okay? Take what's in total right now, which is 0, add the first number, and save it back into total. And then take what's currently in total, add the next number, save it back into total. Of course, the shorthand version of that is the plus equals, like so. Okay, so that's my for loop. Oh, yeah, no, that's good. So my for loop ran. So my total is now storing the total of all the elements added together, this plus this plus this, etc. And then to find the average, we just take total and divide it by nums.length. And average will now be 238. Sure, that looks reasonable. I think that worked well. So that's basically the algorithm, right? Use a loop and a variable to keep track of your total, right? So you get your sum here, divide by how many elements there are, and that gives you the average. Okay, that's going to come in handy if you ever have numerical data and you want to figure out the minimum, maximum, and average of your data. All right, hope that made sense. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.